Hey guys, it's Kevin. Today I'm going to be talking about the organic dropshipping mistakes that kept me poor. This is going to be more of a tier list type of video, and I specifically wanted to make this video for the new year so you guys can know what type of mistakes to avoid when you first start your organic dropshipping journey, or if you're currently doing organic and you want to avoid some of the mistakes that I personally made that really kept me poor. So the way I'm going to be rating everything is pretty much like this, right? So the S tier is going to be some of the worst mistakes that I've personally made and that you definitely want to stay away from. And then D tier is going to be something that, isn't going to impact you too much, but it still has a little bit of a impact, right? So obviously the higher we go, the worse it gets. So the first mistake that I personally made in the beginning of my journey was not taking enough risk, right? And this is something that I've obviously felt victim to, and it's something that absolutely changed my life once I actually put my back against the wall, like for real, right? If you guys don't know, I used to live up north before I actually moved to Miami. This is where I live at the moment. And I was living with my parents for like the first 22 years of my life. And when I decided to move across the country here to Florida, right, it was probably one of the most toughest and most stressful times ever because I put my back against the wall. I had no other option because I genuinely wanted to go all in on e-com, right, organic. And so really that leap of faith, putting my back against the wall and really just telling myself I don't have any other plan B, no plan C, nothing, is what genuinely pushed me to get these really, really quick results, right? In a matter of a year, I was able to change my life completely, but I don't think I would have gotten there if I didn't put myself in this very risky situation to truly make it work. Because I personally knew if I didn't make this work, I was cooked, right? I was gonna go fucking homeless, right? And so me personally, taking more risks is by far one of the best things you could possibly do, especially when it comes to online money, because mostly these online money business models, right, take a lot of risk. And so you have to put yourself in a little bit of a scary situation, right? And so one of the main mistakes, like I mentioned, was not taking risks sooner. And so I'm going to probably put this at the A tier right here for the first mistake. All right, so the next one we're going to be talking about here is only doing the burner method, right? This is obviously a Bunsen burner. If you guys took chemistry, you guys know what this is, but pretty much one of the main mistakes that I personally went through, right, was only doing the burner method when it came to my product research method, right? And this is something that, obviously you start with in the beginning of your journey to kind of make your first couple of bucks, right? And, there's only so many videos, only so many products that you could see on your burner on a daily basis that are gonna pretty much make you money, right? And you gotta think like 99% of people that do organic are doing the burner method because it's the lowest hanging fruit. It's the easiest thing to do because you're actually able to see data on what's kind of going viral within the platform and what's kind of converting, right? But actually doing what everybody did was really stunting my growth if I really wanted to, make that consistent money with organic and truly pop off. And the moment I actually stopped only doing the burner method and started doing like AliExpress, Temu, and really just branching off to all these other platforms, that's when I really started to make a lot of money, right, with organic. And so I'm not saying you should stop the burner method, but you should maybe try and do other things that other people aren't doing to get the highest ROI. Right? Because you got to think, if everyone's chasing the same thing, if everyone's looking at the same products, you're not going to be first to market. You're not going to be first to a concept, product, or niche, and you're always going to be chasing the crumbs, right? That's pretty much what I tell everyone. And right now in my position, right, I still use the burner method, right? But I use it a little bit differently, right? I use it to actually see what products are popping off, what niches are doing good, and most importantly, right, what concepts I could probably extract from my burner to run with other untapped products that I'm bringing into the market, right? And so the burner method is a great way to do all these different things later on, but you're not really going to make a lot of money with organic if you only do the burner method for the rest of the time, right? And so this is probably one of the biggest mistakes that I did in the beginning, was only doing the burner. And so I'm going to probably add this to the A tier as well as one of the top mistakes that I personally made. Obviously, you're going to make money with the burner, but if you really want to make consistent and big boy money, you have to bring new products into the platform, and there's no way the burner is going to do that for you. Alrighty, so the next one I'm going to be talking about here is shiny objects syndrome when it comes to different business models that isn't organic dropshipping. So obviously, you guys probably know this. I fell victim to this. You guys can go back to some of my old vlogs where I was actually trading meme coins and actually making pretty good money, right? I think I made like $400 in a day just trading meme coins. But believe it or not, like this actually stunted my growth when it came to the focus level that I had to pretty much dedicate to organic. Like I was focusing so much time and effort, energy to meme coins that it started really impacting my stores. And so really what I'm trying to get at here is if you can focus on one thing and one thing only, right? This can apply to any business model. You're going to do tremendous, right? And it's really easy to, catch yourself being like, holy shit, like, you're scrolling on reels or whatever, and somebody's talking about this new AI agency thing or, meme coin, whatever. And it's super lucrative and enticing at the moment, right? Because you're like, oh my God, like it's so fucking easy with AI and this and that. But you got to think like, what's something that's obviously making you money currently that isn't like so like flashy, right? And for me, I knew that organic was something that was pretty old, right? Like e-commerce in itself is pretty freaking old. It's an old business model. It's boring, but I know it worked, right? And obviously I was making money with it already, but I was trying to chase something else because of the flashiness of it with meme coins. I was seeing people with like print like 20, 30K days with it. And obviously I felt very, very, very victim to this. And it actually did stunt my growth when it came to just progressing a lot quicker and my overall focus. So honestly, I'm going to put this at S tier as one of the main things you should try to avoid, right? And by far one of my top mistakes. All right, so the next mistake I'm going to be talking about here is going to be copying, right? This actually and genuinely kept me poor because a lot of us are just copying competitors one for one, right? We see our main competitor right here, which is going to be, the typical Giga Chad that actually knows what he's doing, introducing new concepts, new products. And then we have all the stinking burners literally just copying him one for one, even down to the concepts, right? And so this is burner number 1, this is burner number 2, and this is probably you, this last person right here. So by the time you actually get on the product, onto the concept, there's probably 3-4 other people running it at the time. And, you're again chasing those crumbs, and that's genuinely going to keep you poor if you actually want to make money with organic. And I remember like in the beginning, I didn't really have the creativity or the knowledge to introduce new concepts. So I was really just copying one for one. And I was noticing that all my videos were doing trash. And so this is when I started pioneering the Frankenstein method, right? And the Frankenstein method is when you extract concepts from a particular niche and you essentially just make them a little bit different, right? We're not reinventing the wheel here. We're essentially finding concepts that we know work, but just niching it down to our niche or our product, right? So for example, let's say you find a Billie Eilish, blanket on your burner, right? And you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know the Billie Eilish niche was so freaking passionate, right? And so this is when you would maybe introduce a new Billie Eilish product into the market, right? Like let's say an advent calendar, and run already proven concepts that worked for blankets, but for your calendar, right? And the way we're kind of Frankensteining it here is that not only are we extracting, right, the concepts, but we can also maybe extract some of the marketing angles as well. And this is really how you make your own variation of a video, and that's completely original to the platform, and you're not really taking risk, right? At the end of the day, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're finding what's working. We're making it a little bit different, and we're not copying one for one. So hopefully that made sense. That's going to be my Frankenstein method. I'm pretty sure I pioneered that, but essentially it's something that completely changed my life. But top mistake here was literally copying one for one. I was missing out on so many sales, and this is by far one of the biggest mistakes that you can make as an organic dropshipper. It's just literally doing what everybody else is doing and not adding an ounce of creativity. All right, so the next mistake here is Brez scales. No, I'm kidding. But really what I'm trying to get at here is that you want to stay in your own lane, right? We see tons of guys in the internet space that are making a crap load of money at a very young age, right? Like Brez. And this is something that I honestly felt victim to in the beginning, was looking at these guys and comparing myself to these phenomenons, right? Like it's not typical to see people like Brez make that kind of money at his age. And so sometimes when you compare yourself to those type of people, especially if you're young, you kind of feel like you're losing all the fucking time, because you're asking yourself, how is he making all this money and why am I not, right? And the moment I stopped focusing on Brez scales or other influencers that were making a lot of money or just flashing like a crazy lifestyle, I actually started focusing on mine, right? And I remember that I was looking at like a lot of like exterior type of motivation to kind of like get me started when it came to like my businesses, or even like waking up early. Like I would always think like, bro, like what is Brez Skills doing right now? Like, bro, like I need to get that GT3 RS, and that would kind of fuck with my head, because it was almost like, if I don't get a GT3 RS by the time I'm 25, I'm an absolute like, I'm cooked, right? Obviously this kid's like 20 or 21, I don't know. And it's really hard to fall into that trap of like just comparing yourself, and you got to focus on your own journey, bro. Like, obviously Brez came up super quickly, and he started probably way before you did. And so you can't just like teleport to chapter 10 when you're on chapter 1. And so the moment I started really focusing on myself and my own path, and actually going into like this whole tunnel vision phase where I'm just focusing on me and honestly just minding my own business, that's really when I started making the most amount of impactful results, not only for my business, but for myself, right? And so, yeah, one of the top mistakes that you could probably make is just comparing yourself to these like crazy people that are on like YouTube, influencers, etc., that are making a lot of money at a very young age, and you're just really comparing yourself to their journey, right? Like your journey is going to be completely different from mine, your best friends, and even breast scales, right? So I'm going to probably put this at the A tier. And I'm not saying that comparison is the thief of joy, because I genuinely believe that if you do compare yourself to other people in the right way, you're going to be able to grow. But if you're looking at these type of people like, oh, I'm not enough, I should be doing more, and you're kind of killing yourself for it, like you're beating yourself up, then it's definitely not a good idea, right? So that's why I'm going to put that on the A tier. All right, so the next mistake that I personally made was procrastinating. Okay, a lot of us here watching this video probably fell victim to this at one point, and I kind of want to tell you how this really changed my whole perspective, right? So I used to be one of the biggest procrastinators when it came to like just filming in general. I knew that I had to film every single day if I truly wanted to make money with organic, but for some reason my brain was just like, no. And this really did happen with like run to concepts, right? Filming in public, because I was running a product that was very heavy on the run twos, and I hated, right? I despised going in public with a product and looking like a dumbass, right? But right, the moment I noticed that feeling deep inside of my brain telling me no, I did literally the opposite, and I would force myself to go in public, film the videos, film my ads, and then post them, right? And really what changed all of this was seeing things for what they are and not for who you are or what your brain is telling you. So, for example, what was going on with me was I was thinking about the worst case scenario if I were to go film at Target, right? I would think about people laughing at me, people looking at me weird, thinking I'm like weird as fuck, you know, bringing a product to a Target and like waving it around and just really looking like a dummy, right? But the moment I saw everything for like the actions of me just driving to Target, bringing my phone, bringing my product, and just recording, kind of like eliminated all the bullshit, right? So really, if you do organic, all you're doing, guys, is picking up your phone, you're filming a fucking product, and then you're posting it on TikTok. Like if we're looking at it from the actions, that's all you're doing. But for some reason, your brain likes to just overcomplicate things and think of the worst case scenario, which then leads you to procrastinate and then do it later. So really, if you get that feeling of procrastination for whatever reason, just do literally the fucking opposite and take yourself out of the equation, take the emotions out of it, and just think of the action, right? Because a lot of us think very emotionally, and in business, you have to be very cutthroat and just look at things from like an action perspective rather than like a subjective perspective. Okay. So that's what I'm going to be doing right here with this one. I'm going to probably put this up here, bro. S tier for sure. One of the top mistakes was like being a baby and procrastinating a lot. All right. So the next one is going to be not being resourceful. Okay. So in the beginning of your journey, you probably don't have the most amount of capital to, you know, do everything that you want to do. And so this is when you have to kind of be resourceful when it comes to maybe your filming setup, maybe the products that you're running, and overall the amount of capital that you're working with, right? In the beginning of, I guess, my organic journey, I was only able to film for like 2 products because that was really all I could afford. And I didn't have the fanciest setups. I didn't have like the marble backgrounds, which were pretty popular back in the day, which you don't need now. But back in the day, they were super popular. They were really good, actually. They would convert really good. But I genuinely couldn't afford like marble backgrounds from Amazon. So what did I do? I literally went to Walmart. I used to cut up foam boards into squares and use them as my backgrounds to just be resourceful, right? Because that's really how you survive in really tough times, right? And so, yeah, being resourceful when it comes to organic and just business in general is probably one of the best things you could do to kind of outcompete competition, especially that have more money than you. Is like, how can I look at this from a different angle and try to utilize what I have, right? And so if you're not in the best position right now, try and think of like a resourceful way to film for your products. Right now, if you guys don't know, like Facebook is absolutely blowing up for organic, and you don't even need to order a product to make money. I have multiple students inside of my inner circle that are printing with Facebook without having to touch a product. Is that a 3K day? Holy cow.
It was a 3K day. And I
So when
thought
you
I wasn't
primed
gonna
your Facebook, you hit a 3K day?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just I woke up to
Wow.
1.3K day and then ended up being 3.2.
And so that's a really good example of being resourceful, right? Because if you can't afford to maybe order a sample or order props or backgrounds, you can utilize other ways to make you money, right? And so being resourceful or not being resourceful was one of the biggest mistakes that I had in the beginning, because I know for a fact I could have made way more money if I just thought outside the box and just truly asked myself, like, what do I have around me and what could I utilize to make me more money and just help me with my videos. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the B tier. Obviously it's not life or death, but you're definitely missing out if you're not being resourceful with what you have, especially if you're in like a pretty tough spot. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and add that to the B tier. All right, the next thing that kept me absolutely poor is running pump and dump products, right? So obviously if you guys do the burner method, you guys see that there's so many different pump and dumps that you could run at the moment to make you money very, very quickly, but also completely just dump after like 2 weeks, right? And this is something that I personally fell victim to because I was pretty tight on cash. And obviously, I think there's a time and a place to run pump and dumps. Like if you're poor and you genuinely don't have no money, run a couple pump and dumps, build some capital, and then move on to a better product that's going to actually make you money consistently, right? But I genuinely was not making the money I wanted just only running pump and dumps, because I would literally make money 1 month and then completely dump the next, right? I would come off of maybe like a 12 to 15K month, and then the next month I'm back at zero. And so I would ask myself, like, what is actually going on? And the true reason was the product, right? And so the moment I kind of took myself out of the equation, right, and thought logically rather than emotionally, I was like, bro, if I'm like taking on more fucking pump and dumps and I continue doing this over and over and over again, bro, I'm going to be absolutely cooked, because I'm literally just going to have to be chasing new products every single month. And that's a pain in the ass. And you're not even guaranteed money if you're chasing new products over and over and over again, right? There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. And so it's really not a long-term play. And so the moment I started looking at longevity, right, and looking at products that are going to be consistently making me money, that's when everything just kind of changed for me, right? Because now I'm able to make money every single month. There's no dips, there's no crazy increases. It's just pretty much consistent. And I feel like consistency is key when it comes to just feeling good about your business. Like, don't you want consistent money every single month and not have to worry about a product, absolutely going crazy 1 month and then absolutely dumping the next? It's one of the most stressful things ever. And so the moment I kind of like started running products that are a little bit better, that have longevity for even branding, everything just kind of changed for me. So yeah, running pump and dumps was probably one of the biggest mistakes, especially towards like the middle of my journey, because I was really getting caught with like the whole shiny object syndrome of like, oh my God, I see this guy running up this product, I need to order it, and whatever. But at the end of the day, like, you're only making the crumbs, and it's only going to last so much, especially with blankets and mugs and even a lot of these products that you're seeing on your burner. Like, they're not going to take you far. You need to start thinking a little bit more long term if you want to make those long term type of plays, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and probably add this in the S tier, because the moment I stopped running these stupid pump and dumps and focused on real products, I started making the most amount of money. All right, so the next mistake here is going to be not starting earlier, right? So I remember in the beginning of, I guess, like my journey, it took me 3 months of just watching YouTube videos and courses before I started, because I genuinely didn't think that I was prepared enough to start. And that honestly stunted like everything. I could have probably started a lot earlier if I just started and learned along the way, right? Because a lot of us, for some reason, think that we need to know absolutely everything about a subject before we start it. And that's just really not the case, because the best lessons that you're going to learn as an entrepreneur is when you're actually doing the business model, right? And so you don't want to be this person that's always saying like, there's no chance, I can learn everything I need to know about making money and I have to wait for the right time. No, like, just start and learn along the way, right? And that's probably the best thing you could do, and the highest ROI thing you could possibly do in the beginning is just fucking start, bro. Because you're honestly wasting time on like this whole like hypothetical and theoretical theory of like, okay, like, I'm going to learn absolutely everything, so when I do start, I'm going to be on the right path. Like, bro, just start the fucking business model, get yourself in the trenches, put yourself in that stressful situation. And I promise you, like, you're going to learn so much more from actually practicing the business model. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put this over at the A tier here, because I feel like I could have definitely started a lot earlier if I didn't think this way. Alrighty. Another mistake that kept me poor is thinking short term, right? And so going back to the whole pump and dump stuff, I was really just focusing on the short term gratification of like making money in the short term by running a pump and dump. And then I would get pissed off when I wouldn't make money the next month. And I'm like, bro, how can I actually do this long term? And so when you actually start thinking long term, you can make long term plays. And so let me explain what I did. So after I started running, or yeah, after I ran short-term products like pump and dumps or whatever, I took a month from organic just to think, like no bullshit, a whole month to think like, all right, what type of product is going to be here long term for the next 2 years to where I'm actually making consistent money every single month and not have to ever worry about a pump and dump, right, situation. And really what I did is like I started taking my time. I started studying like really big brands that weren't only just organic brands, like e-com brands in general, like started really diving into like clothing brands and how these brands were actually able to stay in the game for as long as possible. And so I really just started studying like big brands. And so the moment I actually started doing this, I was kind of looking at things from like a different lens. Like even though I was doing product research like on my burner or even AliExpress, I was really looking for long-term type of products, right? And you know, these type of products are really rare to find. And so it really did take me that whole month of thinking and finding until I found the product that, you know, I absolutely went crazy with, which then led me to start my brand, right? But really, if I didn't put myself into that long-term kind of mindset of like thinking long-term of like where I even wanted to take my e-com journey, like did I really want to do this for the rest of my life? That's when I started kind of like attracting these long-term products and kind of seeing things differently, because I feel like a lot of you see organic and just e-com in general as like some short-term kind of side gig thing where like you're going to make a crap ton of money, but then you're just going to chill with it, right? But really the people that actually make it in this game are the ones that think long-term, that really want to just do this for the rest of their life, and you know, aren't afraid to like not make money for a couple of months and are willing to sacrifice some time to kind of get to that position, right? And again, just not having that shiny object syndrome and really thinking critically about the products you're going to start taking on, the content that you're going to start making, and most importantly, like what type of person do you want to become? Because I knew that I wanted to be a long-term player in the game and I wanted to be around for the next 10 years. And so that's really what I had to do. So yeah, not thinking long-term was probably one of the biggest mistakes that I made that really did keep me a lot more poor than I should have. And I'm going to probably add this to the S tier, bro, because if I didn't think long-term, I still would have been poor and not making the money that I wanted to with organic. And I feel like a lot of you fall victim to this. So definitely start thinking long-term, because if you want to make long-term results, you have to be a long-term player. All right, so the next mistake I made was believing that working smarter, not harder, was actually a thing, right? And that kind of assumes that, you know, working harder isn't smart, right? Because, oh, you have to work smart. You have to, you know, leverage everything that you do in life, because if you think smarter, you're going to be able to cruise through everything quicker. That's really not true, bro, because you can work harder and smarter at the same time. And that's how you're really able to outcompete your competition. And so really with me, I was always more like the smarter type when it came to like more calculated decisions, even the product selection. Like I would say I have a really good eye with products. But the one thing I was kind of lacking in was like actually working hard and sitting on my fucking desk for like 10 to 12 hours. Like now that's obviously the bare minimum that I do every single day at my level now. But before I was like, you know what? I need to work smarter, and it's okay if I just pick like one product to run and that's it, right? Because I'm just going to be smarter about it. But bro, if you can pick out multiple winning products at once and work like a fucking horse, you're going to make so much more money, which is why I condone you pick up 3 products at a time that are winners, right? And just go all in, right? Like why only just satisfy yourself with just one, right? And think that's all you could really do, because like, oh, I'm being smart about it. You know, I'm making calculated decisions, and you know, this is a 10K per mil product, so I'm just going to leave it that way and double down on it. No, like, bro, you could do so much more if you're willing to just work a little bit harder, but also really smart about what you're doing, right? And this is how you really just become a machine of like, you're working smart, you're studying everything, you know product selection, you know what concepts convert, but now how can you just bust your ass off when you're like recording 5 to 6 videos a day and truly just taking this like seriously, where you're out competing your whole entire competition, right? Because I can tell you right now, going back to the 1%ers of organic, like the 1%ers of organic are running multiple products and they're fucking recording their asses off every single day and not missing a day, right? So they're working smarter, but they're working really fucking hard as well, right? So don't fall into this trap. This is something that completely changed the game for me. And I'm definitely going to add this over in the A tier, right? One of the top mistakes is just thinking that like, if I work smart, I'm going to make more results than the guy that's working harder, but that's not the case. You should be doing both. All right. Another mistake here is going to be being glued to your phone or being addicted to your phone, right? One of the top mistakes that I made during the beginning was I was really addicted to my phone. My screen time used to be about 9 hours average per day. Now we're looking at like 1 hour. Okay. And the only reason that I'm adding this to the list is because if you're using your phone for anything that doesn't have to do with organic, you're wasting time, right? The only reason why I have an hour on my phone is because I'm literally just posting on it, right? Obviously, you can take into account like the recording process, yes, but really that hour is just literally being used to record, do a little bit of concept research on my burner, and that's pretty much it, right? And it's either 1, sometimes 2 hours a day, but I'm never going past that, right? And so really one of the top mistakes that I made was just being glued to my phone. And again, if it's not conducive to your business, you shouldn't be doing it. So you should probably stop brain rotting, because that's not going to be making you money, especially if you're not brain rotting to find products or concepts, right? Because I would consider burner method like a brain rot type of thing, but it's actually conducive to your business, because if you can actually find a good product from there, you're going to make money. So if you're not fucking scrolling on your phone to find products, what are you doing, bro? And so I'm going to probably add this to the C tier. Obviously, it's not something crazy, but it's definitely a very minor mistake people fall into in the beginning. So we're going to go ahead and add this to the C tier. Just stop using your phone so much, bro. Lock in. All right, next one we're going to be talking about is work-life balance, right? Just balance in general, right? I feel like a lot of people fall into this trap that you have to be balanced in life, right? You have to balance your work life and your social life. But quite honestly, if you truly want to make a lot of money with anything in the world, there can't really be balance, right? Because if you want to be like extraordinary at something, you have to be extraordinarily kind of like obsessed, right? And most of the time, if you're a balanced type of guy, you're just an average Joe, right? And me personally, I am very obsessive when it comes to a lot of areas in my life, especially my work life. And I love this shit, bro. I literally sit down on my chair 10 to 12 hours a day, just working, filming, getting back to students, like all day, every day, I'm just sitting, right? And I'm working because I'm obsessive about this. I kind of look at this as like a game, and I really do slack on my life, I guess. I'm not like the most social guy. I've sacrificed a lot of relationships, both like feminine and like my boys, to pursue this full time, right? And you kind of have to not be balanced in life if you really want to make some quick cash and quick results, right? You kind of have to go all in. But one thing that I do believe here is something called counterbalance. And it's essentially when you have different phases in the year to dedicate to certain tasks, right? So obviously Q4, I was locked in, right? 3 months just sitting down, working, recording, posting, everything, right? Like I'll even show you guys my fucking headset. Like this was my Q4 headset right here. Completely just melted off, right? Because it was just glued to my head all day, every day. And, you know, I was very obsessive. I was only doing work related tasks, and that was literally necessary to, you know, make the most impact Q4. But now that it's January, it's kind of like downtime. We're also going into Chinese New Year. I'm actually prioritizing a lot more of like my life stuff. So I'm going back to the gym. I'm building like, you know, meaningful relationships again with like people, doing more tasks that require me to like go outside, meet new people, and just being a little bit more social. So right now I'm like in a phase in my year where I'm just really focusing on life stuff, right? Like life maxing, if you want to call it. But really, this is what you would call a counterbalance, right? Because now I'm kind of doing less work and really focusing on my life goals rather than work stuff. But you know, after Q1, maybe Q2, Q3, I'm back to work, right? And I'm going all in on work. And recently what I did, right, was I actually went to go visit my parents for 10 days, and I completely took 10 days off. And dude, I feel so much more recharged now, that it was like an amazing choice, because when you actually take time off, you're able to recharge and just not focus on work. And that would be like a counterbalance, right? Because actually taking time off is going to make you more money in the long run, because you're not going to burn out. You're going to feel a lot better when you come back in, and you're able to, again, have that longevity when it comes to working really long hours like I do. Because if I didn't take that fucking, you know, 10-day vacation, dude, I would have been absolutely cooked, and I would probably not be recording this video because I'd be so burnt out. And I know my burnout rate. Like I know when I'm about to burn out. And so when I feel that in my body, I immediately take like 3-4 days off completely, and then I get back to work, right? But it's always about just that counterbalance aspect of it, and truly just obsessing with really like what phase you're in life, right? Like right now, I'm more of like in a life phase, really just trying to increase, you know, things in my life when it comes to like my body getting back in shape, some of the relationships with my family and my friends, and overall just like focusing on stuff like that. But who knows, in 2 months, I'll be back at work and just going no life with the whole organic stuff again. And that's just really how you kind of utilize that counterbalance. And so I'm going to go ahead and add this into the B tier right here. Okay. All right. Another mistake that you can fall into, and I fell into personally, was not leaving my hometown, right? I feel like if you can actually take the leap of faith, like I mentioned earlier, and leave your hometown, you're going to do great things. Like even moving to a city like Miami, New York, or some big city that you can go ahead and build some connections and kind of eliminate yourself from like that small town vibe. Because me personally, when I lived in my small town up in Connecticut, you know, my class size was like 200. It was very, very small. And the environment, like I said, was not conducive to my business. A lot of my friends back home, and no shade to them, they just love to party and like hang out and not really work on anything, right? And I really wanted to lock in on my business and really just change my life. And that environment was not conducive. So that's why I actually ended up moving to Florida, right, to kind of surround myself with killers, right, that wanted to do e-com like I did. I also joined like Discord communities to be around like-minded people. But most importantly, I took myself out of that really slow environment and more into like a fast-paced type of environment where I was kind of forced to lock in and also meet these type of people. And guys, there's no issue with like loving from afar. I love all my friends from my hometown, and it's okay to be like, hey bro, like I'm gonna go lock in Miami for a couple of months. That doesn't mean we can't be friends, but love from afar, right? And you're gonna have friends for certain things, guys. Like I have friends that I go out and party with because they're super cool people, but I also have other friends that are super cool people too, but we only talk about business, right? So you're gonna have friends for different things, but definitely don't be that guy that's like, yo, I can't be friends with you, bro, because like you don't do e-com. Like fuck off, right? Like don't do that, right? That's weird. And yeah, so this is like a really minor mistake. I'll probably add this to the B tier as well. Try to get the fuck out of your hometown, because I'm telling you, like you will stay poor if like you are in a very poor kind of like hometown where it's not really gonna inspire you to do more than just what's kind of normal there, right? So yeah, definitely add that to B tier. All right, now the last one we're gonna be talking about is being emotional. This is one of the biggest mistakes you could do as an organic dropshipper and just business owner in general. It's being emotional about certain things. And I'll give you an example. Me personally, when I first started making some pretty decent money with organic, I was hitting my first like ever 1K days, and I was pretty consistent with it. I remember I was hitting 1K days for like a month straight. And eventually, right, that kind of came to an end because I was running like a pump and dump. And I remember this one day, I went from a 1K day to a $0 day for like a week straight, dude. And I was being very, very emotional about the situation that I genuinely thought like, I'm cooked. I got lucky. I can't replicate this type of success anymore. And it's okay to feel that way. But you have to understand that like, if you truly want to do this long term, you have to fucking take the emotion away. Like it's normal to have bad days, guys, right? Like right now, you might be coming off a 1K day, and then the next day you're at 0, and that's okay. That doesn't mean you're absolutely cooked. That doesn't mean that like you're maybe doing something wrong. It's just that with organic specifically, guys, like we rely on going viral, and realistically, you're not going to be going super, super viral every single day. And so it's kind of like a roller coaster. And so I tell a lot of people, listen, like don't worry about your weekly or your monthly goals. Worry about your annual goals. How much money can you make in 1 year with organic? Because this is a very volatile business model where you can genuinely go off a $0 month, right? And then the next month you print like a 50K month. I've seen this time and time again. And so like this is something that happens all the time. But again, you can't be emotional. What, you're just going to quit when you have a bad day and that's it? Or you're going to quit when you have a bad month? Like, no, you could go 3 months without making money, right? But all of a sudden you pop in with a 30K month, and you know, that time that you wasted actually amounted to something, right? Because at the end of the day, like a lot of the results that you're putting in now, you're not going to see till later, right? All the skills that you're building now, you're not going to see till later, because your skills are directly contributed to the amount of money that you can make with the organic dropshipping model, right? And that's going to take time to catch up, right? So stop being emotional, think logically, and again, learn along the way, and eventually it'll catch on, right? But again, stop being emotional, stop being a crybaby, and you know, at the end of the day, just know that it's a very volatile business model. There's ups and downs, but if you stick with it and not give up, you're going to fucking make it. So I'll go ahead and add this to one of the biggest mistakes that I made, was being super emotional and subjective about what I was thinking. And I mean, yeah, this completely changed everything for me. So yeah, guys, that's going to be the video for today. If you guys enjoyed this tier list, go ahead and drop a like, subscribe. Also, just give me some feedback in the comment section below. Apart from that, if you guys do want to work with me one-on-one and join the inner circle, you guys can go ahead and apply down below. We've been absolutely crushing Q1, believe it or not. I'll go ahead and show you guys the Discord really quickly. So if you go over to the wins chat, this is just this last week. So we have Mark here hitting a 3K day, back-to-back 3K days in Q1, right? Then we also have Harper, same day, hit a 3K day Q1 as well, right? Everyone is printing during Q1, and a lot of you think that you can't print during Q1, but if you actually have the right systems and the right products, you could see how people are genuinely fucking printing. This is Javier. He did a, what, like 80K Q4. He's still printing Q1 right now with 1K days, and you can see this goes on and on and on. Obviously, I'm posting my wins as well. Hit 200K on one store, and it's just almost never ending, right? So if you guys do want to join the inner circle, go ahead and apply down below, and we'll see if you're a right fit. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to end the video here, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.